Good evening, Frontline friends and family. My name is Tiffany Flowers. I'm the campaign director of the Frontline. I am a dark brown skinned Black woman. I have on large glasses with the colorful frames. I have dreadlocks and my hair is pulled to the side in a ponytail and a lovely little denim dress on, some very colorful long nails. Thank you for joining us tonight on the front line. If you don't know who we are, I'm here to tell you. And if you know who we are, welcome back. The Frontline is a joint campaign between the Working Families Party, the Movement for Black Lives Electoral Justice Project, United We Dream, and the Rising Majority. And tonight we're pleased to kick off our Black History Month programming with all of you in honor of our new ancestor, bell hooks. And why did we want to spend this month talking about bell hooks, celebrating bell hooks, diving in to the teachings of bell hooks and talking about all the ways that Bell taught us about love? Well, because she deserves it, and because our work is deeply informed by a Black feminist politic, and because with all of the mourning and all of the sadness and all of the grief and all of the compounding tragedies that we're all getting to experience, I'm sure that you can identify with the feeling of really not having an opportunity to grieve or have space to process all of the things that are happening all of the time. So we thought, what better way than to spend this month with all of you talking about love, the love of bell hooks, and what Bell taught us.
The widespread assumption that ethical behavior takes the fun out of life is false. In actuality, living ethically ensures that relationships in our lives, including encounters with strangers, nurture our spiritual growth.
So tonight, I'm really pleased to welcome Leslie Mack, Chris Love, and Cessi Sparrow to this conversation. Thank you so much for being here tonight, friends. I would really love it if before we got started, you could just describe yourself, give your physical description and your pronouns. And I'll start with you, get Chris. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. My name is Chris Love. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a darker skinned Black woman as well with wide frame glasses. I've got curly hair. I'm wearing a houndstooth blouse and a black sweater. And I'm so honored to be here to see all of my sister friends here who I haven't seen in a little bit.
Welcome. Thank you. Hi, Cessi.
Hey y'all, I'm Cessi Sparrow. I use she, her pronouns. I am wearing very large green glasses. I also have locks and they're pretty much to my shoulders. And I'm wearing a green floral blouse. And I'm happy to be here.
Cessi, we're so happy you're here. Hi, Leslie.
Hey fam, hey everyone. Leslie Mack here. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a light-skinned Black woman with right now straight blonde short hair. I am wearing a turquoise blouse, white earbuds, and rainbow framed glasses. I'm so excited, one, about this entire month that we get to celebrate bell hooks and also to be here with all of you for this kickoff conversation.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I just want to jump right into it because there's so much to talk about. So, all of Black History Month, if you've ever seen Brown Sugar, I'm like the Sanaa Lathan of Black History Month. I'm going to ask you, if I talk to you, if I see you, when did you fall in love with bell hooks? When were you introduced to bell hooks? So, keep that in mind, friends. If you see me on the street, that's what I want to know. So, I'm going to start with you all. Where and when were you introduced to bell hooks, Cessi?
This is so interesting because I came to understand, I wouldn't say no, I would say understand bell hooks later, like in the last, I would say 5 years or so. Initially, I had heard her name, I'd seen quotes, but I hadn't really dove really deep into any of her work or actually read anything up until a few years ago. we all go through heartbreak. You live long enough, your heart gets broken over and over. You get disappointed by different things. And when I initially came across the book, All About Love, Bell Hooks's voice was just so honest and straightforward. It like cut me to the core, and I was not ready to absorb what she had to say. I was just like, oh no, you're speaking my truth. I'm not ready to face this right now. But recently, like in the past 2 years or so, I've come back to All About Love, and especially in the month since she's passed. And I do have my book here. I do have a quote. She's talking about in the one of the last chapters. She talks about the healing redemptiveness of love, and the thing that registers the most with me is when she says, "Mindful remembering lets us put the broken bits and pieces of our hearts together again. This is the way healing begins." And I feel like that's why we're here. We're here to start talking about how we heal.
Well, I didn't know you was gonna bring a text and a word.
I did my homework this time.
I know that's right. Leslie Mack. I think I have an idea of when you were introduced to Bell, but tell us all about it.
Yeah, I was introduced to bell hooks in high school. I went to an all-girls boarding preparatory school, a very, feminist TM, white feminism TM institution. And I was introduced to her really my sophomore year by one of my amazing English teachers. And I just remember it being one of the first times that really I questioned the idea of feminism and what it meant to me differently as a Black woman. And also, it was kind of this tiny crack that opened me up to the possibility of a more radical understanding of the world. And so for me, it was very seminal in kind of helping me think about my place in the world and how I want it to be. And I'm really grateful that I was lucky enough to be introduced to her that early. And then as I've been working, especially in comms, I go back to her work so often to kind of ground me. And on those days where it's hard to love everyone, I turn to bell hooks very often to kind of pull me back from the abyss. So that's where I find a lot of my strength sometimes there as well.
Yeah, talk about that. The days when it's not easy to love everybody, including yourself. Oof, Chris.
So I'm probably more of a common story, right? I came into bell hooks taking a women's studies class in like my first or second year in undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill. Shout out to Holloway Sparks, who was my professor in that class. And I ran into bell hooks again as a law student. I actually took a critical race theory class, a real live critical race theory class. And of course, we used a lot of her texts in that class as well. And so, we visit bell hooks in this house all of the time simply because of the work we do. But as a young woman coming out of the DMV and going to North Carolina for school, I think that bell hooks' work resonated with me because it helped me, it gave language to a lot of the things that I think that I was experiencing, but didn't necessarily have the language or the lens for at that time as a young 18, 19-year-old Black woman, right? And so, I went back and revisited Ain't I a Woman, which was the first work that I had ever encountered by bell hooks. And reading through it, it is so timely even today. She wrote that in 1981, and the themes still remain, and we still revisit those things as feminists, as Black feminists, whatever feminism you identify with, right? And so I think it's foundational for me. Bell hooks made it okay for me to say out loud that I'm a Black feminist.
Mm-hmm. And the revisit angle, I think everybody I know, unless they're brand new to bell hooks, has revisited her recently. And if they got introduced to her work in their youth, came to see her and learn her and know her in a completely different way once, as Cessi said, we all got to live a little bit. and understand how you could apply those teachings and what she really, really meant. You thought you knew when you were 20, boom, but it hit a little different at 43, 44.
Yep.
And
You're right in the guts.
It can.
You read it before and it was like, oh yeah, it makes sense. I got it. And then like you hit, your 30s and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is different. This is hitting me in a whole nother, space, a whole nother realm of both comprehension and impact. So yeah, definitely resonating with that completely.
Impact, child.
Yeah.
So keeping with this theme, we knew, audience friends, that this conversation could go so many ways. So we really are trying to practice discipline here, because that is like the teachings of bell hooks and the love lens is so expansive. We could all be here all night. And please feel free, jump in the chat, tell us how you're feeling. What did Bell teach you? But Chris, sticking with that, how did Bell then shape your understanding of the world? And specifically, we could talk about young love.
Listen, I'm a little long in the tooth for young love.
We could talk about oh Lord.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Listen, Tiffany, we need some drinks if we want me to go back to young love. I mean,
girl, I think we need something stronger than drinks for that, Lord.
We could talk about that enduring love. We could talk about that transitional love. All of us have seen some parts of all of that, right? So how did, and I want to stick with this question for all of us, just sticking with that theme. We've all seen it, experienced it. How did what you learned, what you read, help form that experience?
I think for me, it was more about self-love, right? Like I said, my first access point was Ain't I a Woman, which I think was one of the first full books that she had written. And so a lot of that talks about, desirability politics and how Black women have ended up in this game of desirability, looking at us from slavery to then the 1980s present day, right? And so it, for me, it reaffirmed a lot of the things that I was seeing in my own life, being a brown-skinned, dark-skinned Black woman, and being in a really multicultural, very diverse or culturally rich area, and feeling like I wasn't an object of desire for a lot of my peers, especially Black men, right? And so just unraveling kind of the history of that and the politics of that. And it really helped me come to grips with a lot of the things that I was feeling about myself as a Black woman, because our self-worth is challenged constantly, right? Our self-worth is challenged constantly, from our looks to our education to just anything that you can imagine about Black women. Folks are challenging it. I mean, I've got some troll who's talking about my butt and putting pictures on the internet and talking about how I'm unintelligent and all of this stuff. And I think because I have that foundation with bell hooks, I love myself enough to just let that slide right on off, right? It's not like, you're not going to tell me I'm ugly, because I know I'm not.
Ugly where?
Right?
Ugly could never.
Right? Right? You're not going to tell me that I'm not intelligent, because that's simply not true. And I think that the way that bell hooks frames self-love has given me a lot of courage and confidence in my own life to endure a lot of the things that Black women simply have to endure just by being.
Cessi, as you revisited, and visited and revisited, how is it shaping? How has it shaped your understanding of the world, specifically around love? And you got all kinds of love.
Yeah, I do. What's so interesting is that, each time I have come back across bell hooks, I've learned something new. So initially, what was too close was I'd had my heart broken a few times, really insane relationships, and in dealing with just everyday family stuff. And one of the things she talks really honestly about is about truthfulness in love and how difficult that could be. She talks about how love and lies can't coexist,
Mm.
and these are things that's when you really absorb what it is she's trying to tell you, each time you come across it, it's just hits you closer and closer and closer. And so that's one way. And then the other way in which recently I have absorbed the work of bell hooks is when she talks about children and how we love in childhood, and how we raise our children in a I can't think of the exact word, but in like a nonviolent way. How we need to be careful with our words and be careful with our actions and be careful with the way in which we address our children, how we can't use humiliation and shame. Although I will say I'm slightly old school. I mean, a tiny dose of shame here and there is fine, but you gotta keep it in the room. You can't be letting everybody know that you're shaming your kids or letting them see it outside of the situation. So these are the things where I really appreciate her teachings. And I think Leslie and I had a conversation when we were going through how we were going to do the content for the front line this month. And I mentioned to her, I was like, it's so funny about bell hooks. I've come across her so many times. And she's always felt like she was eternal to me. She's always felt like, she's always been there. But in actuality, she died at 69. That's fairly young. She really hasn't been here forever. It just feels like she's been here forever because of her impact. Her impact is so large. And how this got on our radar was through the Bell Hooks Taught Me hashtag. And I really appreciate the person who decided to do a call to action to make that go viral, because we would all be feeling this way amongst ourselves. Who's to know whether we would have shared that? And the Twitter community has really come together to really share the impact and talk about the depth of their appreciation for bell hooks. And I think as one of our newest ancestors, that's the best that we can do, is to keep that love alive, keep her voice alive, and try to keep going back and revisiting what she had to share with us.
Amen. Cessi, I don't, yeah.
All that. All of that. Yeah. It's been interesting, again, with this revisiting piece. And I think The Female Search for Love came out in 2002. And I had been married about a year by that point. And anyone who knows me, I'm a voracious reader. So I read a lot. And of course, read it as soon as it came out. And I remember sitting with myself thinking, okay, I've just made this, lifelong commitment to somebody. And I have not fully confronted my own ability to love myself in a way that I really should have before jumping into marriage. And I've been married for 20 years. So this is not, I made the wrong decision. I definitely made the right one for me. But that book really, as I got older, helped me kind of really sort through the ways in which I was not loving myself. There's a quote from it. She says, the best place to start practicing the art of love is with the self, the body, mind, heart, and soul that we can know most and change. And that really, started an ember within myself about, okay, if I can love myself in a certain way, it can help me love the world differently, and I can see my place in the world differently and the impact that I can potentially make. And so that exploration has really stayed with me, and it's a journey, you know. I'm still in therapy. I'm still talking about those same things, because it's not a one and done type of thing, you know. It's not going to be a day I call up Tiffany and like, I'm done with all of my self-discovery. Tiffany, high five. I don't, that's not how it works. And I think that that's what Belle's work really is indicative of, is that these struggles and these questions about love, about self, about community, about love being a political action, all of those things are not things we put down. It's stuff we carry with us and we continually develop and continually move through. And Cessi mentioned, you know, her age when she died. And I think it's, you know, I would call her a yelder when she passed, you know, a young elder. And I just remember hearing the news and feeling like I was not willing to let this become a 24-hour news cycle situation. I felt as though Black women needed more time to mourn her, more time to celebrate her, more time to honor this really crucial legacy, and to ensure that folks that may not have known about her do. And so that's what led us to this convo today.
Leslie, that's such a wonderful segue into the next question that I have about why it's important that we're doing it this month. I'll take a personal privilege and say, not only because of, you know, the short amount of time it feels like collectively we had, the fact that we can't pull together a book club and just come over each other's houses in our respective cities and, you know, pour a libation and cry together and do what we do when we come together. But also because every conversation from even ideating around all of this has brought out a level of vulnerability and truth and honesty and sharing in our community that I think is just so beautiful. And so having starting this way and modeling the honesty, the radical honesty and vulnerability that we feel, and that Belle gave us strength and language to share, I think is so necessary in this moment. If you know me, and you know how I'm moving through the world and what I feel and what I think, I don't think there's any path forward besides care and relief. And I don't know that I'd be so clear on that if it wasn't for Bell Hooks. And I think it's a lesson that could be applied to damn near everything we see, touch, and sense right now. And I just, I hope it's contagious. I hope people are curious about this and want to understand and feel this love. If they feel that we feel love, I hope they want to feel it too and figure out how to emulate it in community with each other, in their own homes, and most importantly with themselves. So I said I weren't going to talk, but that's it.
Don't that's it. Don't that's it us. Don't that's it. Don't do that. Don't do that. I already said my piece, so I don't even need to, I already said why I thought it was important. But I the only thing I would add before passing it to Chris and or Cessi is that we've suffered so much loss over the last 4 years, more than even, you know, especially the last couple of years. And they felt like they've just been one on top of the other. And we haven't even had, as Tiffany said, time to gather together, to even be together through these losses. And so for me, this month is a time for us to mourn and celebrate together, and to really emphasize that the things that Belle was talking about are still alive for all of us. You know, she says in Salvation, she says, I tell them that love is always there, that nothing can keep us from love if we dare to seek it and to treasure what we find. And I think that's what you're talking about, Tiffany, is that even in these conversations, even in these ideation conversations, talking about who we were going to invite, what kinds of things we wanted to talk about, all of that was treasure. All of it was love. All of it was beautiful. And so even now she's giving us gift after gift after gift.
Ashe. Ashe. Chris, we can jolt you into joining us.
You twisted my arm.
We twisted you and cajoled you and somehow managed to get you here. Because you thought it was important too. Why?
Well, I think that the past few years have been crummy, and we need space and time to process. And I was one of those people that when Bell Hooks passed away, I was like, okay, this is the one, right? Because
Yep.
I think we all have that person that we're like, because most of the time I'm like, oh, that person was still alive. But Bell Hooks for me was like, oh, let me put down my phone. I can't even come up with words.
Yeah.
And I'm never speechless. Right?
You are not.
I could not. Right? No, I'm not. I'm never speechless. But I could
She
not find
a
the
whole
words.
attorney, y'all.
A whole
She's
lawyer.
a whole attorney.
A whole lawyer.
So,
Her whole trade
whole
is
lawyer.
words.
Words.
I might filibuster a time or two. I don't know. I just did not have the proper words or the time or space to process her passing, and not just her, but other loved ones, especially that we're now in a pandemic, right? And so I think it's so important that, we live in a 24-hour news cycle and things pass really quickly on social media. And we're seeing a lot of deaths compounded because of the time that we're in. And so I think that this one is important for me because this one, Bell Hooks taught me about what kind of woman I wanted to be and what kind of feminist I wanted to be. And that's foundational for me. That's who I am. Right. So
Yes.
listen.
I know. I already weep today. Please, Chris.
I'm not gonna do it. I've got Pat McGrath on my eyes.
Ooh. Oh, Cessi, not you too.
Cessi,
I'm wearing the cheap stuff, so I gotta put it on.
I'm gonna take a sip of this soda.
Yeah, let's have a little water break. Hi, Whitney on Facebook.
Hey, Whitney.
Thank you.
Hi, Whitney.
For the compliment on the frames, Whitney. Thanks so much. The girls that were all little glasses nerds over here. So hi, Whitney. We all back together now, girls.
Yeah.
Woosah. All right. But I just want to thank you again. And Belle did give us that vulnerability to talk about it, but I've so enjoyed this programming, and we're literally in the first week, and just the way that people want to talk about her art as an offering, right? And I feel like so many times each of us is a creative and an artist in our own right, and you know what it's like to put your stuff in the world. Ooh. And it's so scary.
I said to Tiffany yesterday, I was like, shout out to all the Black Comms folks out there, because Black History Month is 4 weeks of painstaking, detail-oriented content that will be picked apart at every turn. And that really is the God's honest truth and how it feels sometimes. And Belle gives voice to that. She even talks about how, love is not safe.
Yes.
And I love that notion of just being like, it's a risk. It's a risk to love. And it's okay to take the risk as long as you know what it means, right? Her words about love are not tied up with a neat bow and a pretty dot over every I. It's the cracks, the nuance, the bouncy edges on the side of our lives that she really dug deep into. And it's what we need right now, because those are the times we're living in, is those rough edges and those cracks in moments. And so that's why it's been so fulfilling for me anyways.
Yeah. And we appreciate all of the work. And for those of you who don't know, like I said, if you're new to the Frontline family, welcome. But I'm the campaign director. Leslie is our comms director, and Cessi is our social media manager. So if you've tweeted at us or you sent us a DM, Cessi is the lovely person. They always say there's humans on the other side, right? Cessi is that human on the other side that's keeping our digital community afloat. And that's such a pleasure and a joy to work with them. And in that spirit, I actually just want to take a moment to go into the programming that we have coming up for you all this month. We are so elated and so excited. So Leslie and Cessi and I are going to run through this together. I'm going to start. So On February 9th, we are going to have the What is Love conversation with Ola Ronk. Am I saying that right, Leslie?
Ron K, I think it
Ron
is.
K. Sorry, Ola. Ola Ron K, founder of the Free Black Women's Library, and Dr. Takia Amin. And the conversation is going to be around an exploration of how bell hooks define love and how and what impact that's made in their contemplation and understanding of love.
Mm-hmm. And then on February 16th, we will be covering Love of Community, a conversation with Unique Gibson Jones. She's the creator of Because of Them We Can and Culture Tags. And we're going to cover how do we show up for each other in community with love, even when it's difficult. And that, you guys are going to love it.
Look, just take it from me. It's a good one. It's gonna be a good one.
It's a good one. And yes, then the next week, February 23rd, again, I told you it's just all fire, all great programming all month. We have the absolute pleasure of talking about love through policy with the one and only Nsé Ufot, the CEO of the New Georgia Project. And although she's not my representative, she is one of my favorite representatives, and that's Representative Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, to talk about policy as their love language and how bell hooks inspires even their work.
And shout out to today happens to be Rep. Presley's birthday. So happy birthday, Ayanna. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
The following week, we are lucky enough to bridge Black History Month with Women's History Month, which means to me Black Women's History Month, just FYI. And we're going to talk about love in action. We are going to have, Tiffany is actually going to have an intimate conversation with Dr. Bernice King, CEO of the King Center for Nonviolent Social Change. Well, they will talk about their own Be Love campaign and how her father's legacy is built on love. I'm very excited. I know we'll all be moved by that conversation. Tiffany and Dr. King together, it's going to be magic. I'm very excited about that. And then Thursdays on Twitter at 3 p.m. You can join us for a series of Twitter Spaces conversations. We had our first one today. We talked about love in media with the amazing Anoa Changa, and you can listen to that and replay on our Twitter feed. So these audio-only programs will be moderated by Cessi. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers. I already mentioned Anoa, and I'll let Cessi take you through the other guests that we're going to have with us starting next week.
Yes. Next week on February 10th, we are going to be talking to Clarkeisha Kent about love and entertainment. And then the following week on the 17th, we have podcaster and tech equity expert, Bridget Todd. She's going to be on hand to talk about love in tech. And we might have another special guest. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that. And then our last Twitter Spaces for this month. We may do this again. We don't know. We'll see how it goes. We're going to talk to disability activist Vilissa Thompson and Dr. Stella Salfo. We're going to close out Black History Month talking about love in healthcare. So yes, make sure you tune in every Thursday at 3 p.m. for Twitter Spaces. And then every Wednesday at, what time are we doing? On Wednesdays, 3? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. Wednesday evenings is at 7 p.m.
7, right.
Thursdays is at 3 p.m. So we've got you covered Wednesday evening with these conversations like this. And then you can join us on Twitter, 3 p.m. on Thursday for this Eastern time for our Twitter Spaces conversations. As you can see, we've got some heavy hitters, some amazing topics. And we are really going to get to explore the full breadth and scope of the impact of bell hooks over this month. I'm really excited about it.
And as you can also see, Leslie Mack is in charge of the girls. She's in charge of the girls. She said, no, that's 3. No, 7. No, wrong. She's in charge of the girls. Just So, with all that, Chris, I don't know if you knew about all our programming, but what tickled your fancy? What are you excited about with the Frontline?
How are you going to put me on the spot like this? All of that.
That's me.
All of it.
It's my birthday next Saturday, so all this big Aquarian energy is just coming out. You're getting it all.
All of it. I listen to the Twitter Space Today with Anoa, and as you all know, I love Anoa. So, I mean, that was fantastic. I like everybody. Lisa is awesome. It's just everyone. But I will say, I'm going to take a personal point of privilege as an avid movie watcher. I'm really interested in what Clarkeisha has to say. I'm a low key fan. I might have done a the Kent analysis on a horror movie or two. But so I'm really interested to see that one. But really, just like Bernice, Ayanna Pressley, like how's a woman supposed to pick between that menu of Black visionaries? And like I said today in my tweet, I don't even feel worthy to be like listed with these people. Thanks for sneaking me in on this one.
There you go.
Well, I'm gonna take a point of privilege and say bump all of that, because somebody been on TV multiple times in the past few weeks.
Room rated.
Room rated.
She got a 10 on Room Raiders.
Okay, let's be clear.
Yes, flip
Star
it.
Power is in the building. Okay, flip it. Yes.
I dibble dabble.
They said they went into detail about your plants. That was that for me. Like, damn, a Room Raider 10, and they like extreme plant life. Like, I'm just saying,
my plants are living. They're living their best life right now. They got a humidifier in this room. They got natural light.
Child, you're gonna keep your plants alive forever for that Room Raider rating. I know.
That's right.
They earning their keep. They
sure are. They look good though. Go ahead, Leslie.
I'm also excited for Clarkeisha. For those who aren't aware of who Clarkeisha Kent is, she's an amazing writer focused on media and entertainment. But she created this thing called the Kent test. You may have heard of the Duvernay test. You may have heard of the Bechdel test. And Clarkeisha created a test that we are able to measure entertainment for female characters of color. And it is a beautiful lens with which to explore content. And she has really just added such an amazing array of ability for us to talk about. It's not enough to just have a Black character. It's not enough just to have an Asian character. It's not enough just to have an Indigenous character. No. What are they doing? Who are they talking about? Who are they talking to? How central are they to the plot and the central of the story? I just am really excited to hear all about her, because so much of her work, I think, mirrors so well the work of Bell Hooks. And I was just thrilled when she said yes. I was so excited. So I can't wait.
Yeah, we're really
for that one.
Just hi, Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
Hey, Ash.
No, I'm so excited. I meant every word that I said, and I wasn't sneaking anybody in. And Cessi, I forgot you in that tweet, and I'm so sorry about that. I really did mean to put you in, because you are such a rock star too. But I mean, when I looked at that lineup and all these run of shows and reviewing everything, I'm just blown away, and I feel so incredibly blessed, honestly, to be able to do this work every day. Hard as it is, much as it wears us down, I'm so blessed to do this work and to do this with you all and our audience and our Frontline family. And I just feel like the love that this community shares has really lifted and carried many of us through some of the darkest days of the past 2 years. So thank you. And I hope that this love offering that we've put together for you is a balm for your soul in these dark times. And with that in mind, I know people have shared different quotes and readings, and everybody understood the assignment, but is there a parting quote, a parting favorite quote, a word from Bell that you would like to share with the audience that moves you or lives in your heart or spirit that you want to leave as a parting word?
Well, for me, because I'm the only one that didn't read a quote yet, because I picked one. And I think that we right now, in talking about the strength of Black women and strong Black women, and Black women are saving us and all that kind of stuff, I think this one spoke to me, because I don't feel strong all the time, nor should I have to. She says, and this is from a woman, it says, usually when people talk about the strength of Black women, they're referring to the way in which they perceive Black women coping with oppression. They ignore the reality that to be strong in the face of oppression is not the same as overcoming oppression. That endurance is not to be confused with transformation. And when I heard that line, because I did the book, I did my Audible this week, I just went, yes, tell it. Because it's true, it's so true.
I have one to share. It's a short one, but it's a favorite one because I feel like love is a word that's used too easily and quickly in passing. And I don't readily accept people telling me that they love me if I don't know them and we haven't had an opportunity to build something together. And I try to explain and make it clear why I will not reciprocate the words love to you. And I feel like this is why, because Belle gave us the language. So the quote is, love is a combination of care, commitment, knowledge, responsibility, respect, and trust.
Mm-hmm. Read it again, Tiff. Read it again one more time, please.
Sure. Love is a combination of care, commitment, knowledge, responsibility, respect, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that's from Communion, The Female Search for Love.
Right.
And so if you don't feel all those ways and you're not willing to show up in all those ways, family, don't tell people you love them. Because when you tell people you love them, you really are telling them they can count on you and you're going to be honest and you're going to hold them with care or the responsibility that you would hold a newborn baby. That's how you're supposed to, in my mind, hold and carry the love you have for each other and community. And so that's a quote I keep close to my heart because we might like each other and care for each other, but everybody doesn't love everybody. And everybody doesn't have to love everybody, but don't be throwing love around all lightly. Don't be throwing love all willy-nilly at me because you tell me you love me. I'm going to hold you to all those things, So that's my quote and my feeling.
Am I supposed to go next? I'm like,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I know it was right here.
Listen.
Yeah, I was trying to say so many just amazing quotes from Belle. So the one that I was thinking of, though, that really speaks to our work on the front line, this is from Any Woman, and she says, for how does one overthrow, change, or even challenge a system that you have been taught to admire, to love, to believe in? And it really, as Cessi and I, when I tell you, Cessi and I have been, eyeball deep in Bell Hooks, reading and quotes and pulling and talking about all of these things. And I remember just getting through that portion of that book and being like, yeah, this is one of our main problems as a movement, is that we are really trying to move people to change, to confront a system that truthfully, from the moment we are here, the moment we come into being, we are taught to admire something that actually brings us pain. And it's a hard thing to confront. But I think using this language can help open minds, open doors, open ideas, open people to the possibility of disassociating themselves from these oppressive systems in ways that can free us all. And so that's the one I wanted to share.
Yeah. I do have a last quote because Leslie tasked me with pulling some quotes for our monthly content. And I think Leslie was expecting 5 or 6 quotes, and I gave her 9 pages.
True story.
I gave her 9 pages.
We had our comms meeting and I said, see, this is
Are you
Okay.
okay?
We got more things to do. And I will say this, expect a lot of content in various mediums. We have videos coming out, we have voiceovers, we have animations, we have book lists, we have so much joyful content coming over the next 4 weeks for everyone to really engage with Belle on a really deeper level. So not just the events that we mentioned, but you are going to see her on the front line. Everywhere you look is going to be Bell Hooks, Bell Hooks, Bell Hooks. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the things that happen on the front line that I have no idea about.
You gotta come to the.
I should have you come to our comms meeting.
You gotta come to the comms meeting.
You.
If you think the Monday meeting is a mess, oh, and Chris, you haven't been to the Monday meeting, but it's kind of like this. If you haven't been to that Monday meeting, you gotta come to the comms meeting. It is a hot mess.
Can I get a 1-page memo on that?
Yeah. That's where we just dream wild stuff.
Yeah.
Can we do this? Can we do that?
Throwing stuff out, and Leslie checks me. She's like, "Who gonna do that, Cessi?" I'm like, "I don't know." But this quote here I have is another one that I hold close to me, from Bell Hooks, and she says, "To love well is the task in all meaningful relationships, not just romantic bonds." And one of the things that I have tasked myself to do this year is to give everyone in my life an opportunity for success, because we can't always just request things or give an ask. We have to kind of make sure that we're giving the person we're asking something of them an opportunity to succeed and give us the thing that we actually need. And I think if we approach our relationships, our meaningful relationships, with love, and we come from an intention of love, we'll get the results that we want. And that's it.
Cessi, I'm so proud of you.
Have y'all been seeing these conversations around platonic marriages that are starting to be talked about a lot? When I started seeing them, I couldn't help but think about Bell Hooks and her work, and that quote, and this concept of how love should be constructed and not just framed around romantic love. Right. And it's been really, I've been devouring information and content and articles and profiles of folks that are like, look, we're best friends, we love each other, we may not be romantically involved, but we want to share a life together, and we've made a lifelong commitment to each other. And it's in such spirit of that notion of expanding what love means. And I just think it's beautiful.
It is.
Or maybe I just want another spouse. I don't know.
That's what you want, a sister wife.
Act like she hasn't asked me.
She asked for a triple. I heard it.
Leslie.
Leslie said she wants
My husband is going to see this. I'm going to be in trouble, y'all.
My
mom's probably watching.
The not so thinly veiled sister wife all call.
Oh my gosh. When it came out, I realized, like, wait, that's going to be read a specific way. But I do think that we've spent so much time not nurturing, our love bonds outside of relationships, romantic relationships. I think it's been to our detriment. Makes it harder to work together, makes it harder to be in community with each other when we treat or when we put a hierarchical order to the relationships that we have. That's not how love is. Love is not hierarchical. It's expansive. It can hold everything. And I hope that we can make more people believe that over the next 4 weeks. So I'm excited for that.
I hope so too, Leslie. And you want to know something that I'm really proud of as I listen to you all speak and just take a moment as an observer, is I feel like what makes me so proud of the work that we do on the front line is that we really live our values and model that behavior and model that way of working together, loving each other, caring for each other. It's one of the most caring and held workplaces I've ever felt in my life. And keep in mind, y'all, I've never met Cessi in person. This is all 2 years of just committing to loving, supporting, working with, being in community, having flexibility and care for one another, and recognizing that whether we're over it or not, we're still in a global pandemic. People need
Mhm.
grace, people need space, and everybody's processing this time in a different way. So, with that being said, thank you for this lovely evening. Truly. Thank you for joining us on the front line again and again and again, family. And I hope you'll come back. Like I said, this whole month is for you, for our audience, for our frontline family, for our beloved ancestor Belle, and for the hard road that we have ahead and leading into it with all the love in our hearts. So good night. And thank you for joining us. See you again soon.